Good morning, everybody. I'm Lillian Ellican. I'm your host today. I'm briefly going to chat to you guys, and I'm going to hand over to our speaker for this session, Ian Preston. I'm going to apologise in advance. I've got a screaming toddler downstairs. I hope you can all hear me, and obviously when Ian takes over, I am going to go on mute. So thank you all for joining us, and welcome to our first Startup Business Surgery. This is the first of 6 business surgeries that we will be running throughout 2022, and we're kicking off with 10 top tips for new businesses. Before I hand over to Ian, I just want to take this opportunity whilst I've got you all in the room to briefly talk about your chamber membership. So the majority of people in the room, I'm probably thinking all of you in the room, are startup members with us, so fairly new to business or fairly new to your business at the moment. So how to take advantage of your membership as a startup. This is our website, which hopefully you'll know, and there's a membership section. If you navigate to current members, there is various things there that you can access. So you can search for other members through our directory. You can submit a blog or a news story, which is a great way of showing your expertise in your business. And you can also navigate to our member marketplace, where you can either access exclusive member offers and also post your own member offers. From there also, you have access to two other sections on our website. One is our member toolkit, which I recommend you all download. It includes a checklist on how to maximize your membership. So it's a great starting point just to make sure you're doing the right things with your membership. And also there's a member download portal where you can download a variety of content for your staff, decision makers, and other businesses. And also you can download a logo there, which you're able to use saying you're a proud member of the chamber as well. And a couple of other tips very quickly. On that website, we also have our events calendar. We are majority running face-to-face events, some virtual events as well. So really worth keeping an eye on our website for all those events. Make sure you receive our communications like our e-news to stay up to date with regional and local news, and our member bulletin, which comes out on a Monday and is basically a snapshot of what's happening within the chamber that week in terms of events, any campaigning that we're doing. So if you're not receiving any of these emails, please do let us know so we can ensure that you're subscribed. You can follow us on social media. We're on various platforms, so pick the platform you benefit from the most, you're on the most, again, to stay up to date with what we're doing. If you have staff, get your staff involved. Membership is not just for you, it's for anyone within your organization, and just gives you an opportunity to get them involved in terms of networking, but also in terms of professional development. And then lastly, apply for our awards. They're a great opportunity to showcase and put a spotlight on what you are doing. I know that the Greater Birmingham Chamber Awards judging has taken place yesterday, and shortlist will be out next week, but there are always other awards coming up, so do keep an eye on those as well and put yourself forward. And then this is a whole host of events that I've got coming up. I'm very happy to share these slides with you after the session, so you don't need to start scribbling away on all these dates. But these are all the dates for our startup program. So as you can see, there's 5 further surgeries coming up, and also 4 startup networking events, which is really focused on giving you some additional support and additional opportunities to network with businesses in a similar position to yourself. So that is 10 startup events this year, and that is in addition to the events you can already access, which is our other chamber events that are accessible to all our other members as well. Again, it's a whole list. I'm not expecting you to write them all down, but I just wanted to highlight the wide variety of events that we are hosting and in the different locations as well. So hopefully that means there's something to suit everybody there. And then lastly, the Grow Through People campaign. Not sure if anybody's heard of this. It's a Grow Through People. It's something we run in March every year. We've been running it for the last 5 years, and it's a series of expert-led events accompanied by digital thought leadership content, such as blogs and podcasts on our Chamber podcast channel. Every week has a different theme, and this year we're focusing on responsible leadership, accessing and engaging talent, unlocking potential, and harnessing resilience. So again, it would be impossible to go all of these, but spot what is going to help you in your business, what's going to drive your business forward, which topics are particularly relevant to you. Again, if you have staff, great learning opportunities for them. All this content is free. Some of it is virtual, some of it is face-to-face. Most of it will be recorded, so you can watch it back on our YouTube channel as well. So just thought I'd run through that just to show you kind of what is available within your membership that you can have access to. But yes, back to why we're all here today. So I'm shortly going to hand over to Ian Preston, who's kindly hosting today's session. He's a long-standing chamber member and a leading business coach and trainer, and he's going to run you through his top 10 tips for new businesses. We will have time for a Q&A at the end as well. So if you have any questions for Ian, you can use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to drop him any questions, and we will run through them at the end of the session. If you have any technical issues throughout the session, if you can't hear us or anything happens, please place your concerns in the chat so that our Chamber Events team can support you. So that is all from me. Again, thank you guys for joining, and I'm going to hand over to Ian now.
Thank you. So, share screen. There we go. Lillian, perhaps you can just nod and tell me you can see my main first slide.
I can indeed, Ian.
Cool, that's always a good start. Welcome everybody. Let's go on to the first slide. A little bit of background about me. I've been in the corporate sales world for 30 odd years. Started my own business up 7.5 years ago. Climbed the slippery pole, sales rep. Way before laptops and mobile phones. There was a world before, believe it or not, before mobile phones and laptops. So I did that for 30 years. Then I set my own business up and started off literally doing sales training, because it never ceases to amaze me how many people go into business and don't know how to sell. So I've been coaching and training salespeople for something like 20 odd years. I set up my own business doing sales training, then quickly learned how to use LinkedIn more effectively as a marketing resource. And so I spend a lot of my time with people using LinkedIn for marketing. And then I also now do a lot of work with startup businesses and businesses looking to grow to the next level with some business coaching and mentoring, that sort of stuff. So that's the sort of stuff I do. For those of you that are a little bit worried about that first line, it's sales and marketing, not what you might have read somewhere else. So just a thought. There you go. Right. Oh, and by the way, so I'm just going to go. The next slide goes on to the first tip. These are not tips that have come from some ivory towered institute. I've been where you guys are. When I started my business 7.5 years ago, I looked at a blank screen and a blank diary and thought, I need to get some business in. Where do I get it from? And it's tough. You have to be resilient and you have to learn, but we'll cover some of those things as we go through. So I have been where you guys are and maybe wanting to get into. I also don't know, it'd be interesting to know maybe in the chat box, how many of you have actually started and actually in business, and how many of you are actually thinking about it. And maybe that'll be a useful bit of feedback later if somebody can come back to me a bit later and just say, this is where we are. Cool. So my first bit of advice, or my first tip, is to be crystal clear as to why you are going into business in the first place, because this will hold you in good stead in future. People go into business for different reasons. For some people, it's a desire they've always wanted to do. Some people are maybe pushed into a corner and feel they've got no other option. Some people just feel like they want to change the world. But always remember, as you grow, and hopefully you will, always remember why you went into business in the first place. This is really, really important. You know, what's your vision? I do a lot of work with both businesses and also do a lot of work, I think you saw on the first slide, I do a lot of work in the school and education environment, particularly with training and working with school governors and coaching and mentoring governing boards. And it's something that particularly schools aren't very good at. But what's your vision? Where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years' time? You know, what at the end of 2022, if you look back, would represent a good year and progress down the footpath of where you want to be in 3 to 5 years. 5 years is probably a long vision to set, but certainly set one for 3 years. Because if you know where you want to be by 2025, you know where you need to be by 2024 and 2023 and by the end of 2022. And therefore you can gauge your progress accordingly. It's no good setting a 3-year plan or a vision for a strategy for 3 years and then finding in 3 years time that you're nowhere needed, because you need to change things on the way if they aren't working out. So do you have a financial target? Do you need to earn so many pound notes a month? And that's one target, maybe, because if this is your sole source of income, then you need to bring money in. But how much does that money represent? What does it look like? How much do you actually need just to survive? And then how much money do you actually need to live and maybe enjoy life? So first of all, have a thought process around how much money do I need to earn, and how many orders does that represent? And therefore it starts to give you some thoughts around how many clients that you need to get per month, and therefore how many people you need to speak to and how many events you need to go to and all that sort of stuff. That's coming on the next slide on strategy. So it might well be that you have a financial target. It might well be that you want to be the market leader or a strong second in your given marketplace or your given geographical location. Again, that's another vision you may have. You might want to bring a new product or service to market. Again, that's a vision you could have. And see, as I say, but you need to, you need to work all these things out so you know what progress you are making and how far down the road you are getting. People do set visions in different ways, but you need to have one, and it needs to be something short, sharp and snappy. And I would suggest that you put it in an easy to locate place, stick it over your desk or over your computer or something, so you're constantly looking at it and saying, this is why I am doing what I am doing. And the other question you can always ask yourself, then, is this what I am doing right now helping me achieve my vision? Because if the answer is no, you might want to ask yourself a question again as to why am I doing this? One of the things also, if you are setting business up particularly on your own, is being held accountable. It's easy to put it off till tomorrow or next week or next month. Try and have somebody to hold you to account. If you can get a business coach, that's absolutely fine, and that's really, really good. If you feel you can afford it, great, you'll make progress a lot. You will succeed undoubtedly on your own. If you've got somebody to hold your hand and to bounce ideas off and to guide you, you will succeed far bigger and far quicker. But if you're not in that situation to be able to invest, because it's an investment, not a cost, then get yourself somebody that holds you to account. So it might be an accountability buddy. So it might well be that you set out in business with another friend as well, and you can hold each other to account. That's what I did, certainly, when I first set out. We had 2 or 3 of us used to get together every month and saying, are we doing what we said we were going to do? Your kids, if you've got children, they are good at holding you account. Tell your kids that their school holiday abroad depends on you bringing in £1,000 worth of business a month or whatever it might be. I guarantee the last day of every month they were saying, Mum, Dad, how's it gone this month? Get your backside out there and work a bit harder, because I want to go on holiday next month. Or next year, late in the year. So again, kids are really, really good at holding you to account. And then another way of doing it, we've come across vision boards. But if you want to go on holiday or buy a new car or move house, whatever it might be, stick a picture of it in your office somewhere easy to see, because again, it reminds you why you're doing what you're doing. So you've got a vision, now you need a strategy. And this, generally speaking, is the most challenging part. It depends on your background. But this is the bit that people normally need some help with. So again, look to see where you can get some help with putting a strategy together. If you've had to borrow money, for example, some people might insist you've had to produce a business plan and even a financial plan. So you might have some of this in place already. But certainly, going back to the point I was making, if you need to bring X thousands of pounds in per month, how many clients does that represent? So how many people? Let's say you need £1,000 a month. It's low, but it's an easy to understand number, and your average order value is 250 quid. Then you need 4 clients a month. But everybody you speak to is not going to be a client. So how many people you need to speak to get to 4 clients? It might be if you need to speak 4 people to get 1 client. So now you've got to speak to 16 people in the month. And how are you going to find 16 people? How many events do you need to go to? Where is your people hanging out and all that sort of stuff? So that's the sort of thing what we mean by putting a strategy in place. And as I say, you may well need some help with that. This is often not considered, but really, really important. Have in place a support network. If you're starting out on your own, it can be quite a lonely place. So have you got friends with relevant experience? In this particular year, I've just been talking to Lillian beforehand, and you've got lots of great events that are being put together this year. So that's a great place if you've got nobody that you can speak to, that at least virtually once a month, by the looks of it, you can go to an event and speak to people who are in the same boat as you, pick their brains, what's working for them, what's not. I guarantee that any problems you have are not unique. Somebody else has had them before or is having them now. And so people you can go and talk to regularly are a big help. The chamber hopefully will be doing other events as well, and hopefully people like me are around to help as well. And hopefully I'll be coming to some of those events to have a chat to you. But find friends with relevant experience. If you can get, as I say, if you can invest in a coach and a mentor, even better. As I say, it's a cost. It's not a cost, it's an investment. And as I say, you'll achieve far more, far quicker with one than without. But make sure you've got somebody you can talk to. Don't be lonesome. But don't just sit in a corner on your own thinking, I can't do this. You can do it. You just need somebody occasionally to hold your hand and to bounce ideas off. This is really, really important. Have you got your financials in place? If this is going to be the sole source of income, then it's important that it works well and works quickly. So have you put a business plan together around your strategy as to where business come, what events you're going to go to, how many events a month you're going to go to, how many clients you need to speak to, what are you budgeting? What I say to people is normally is if you're setting up a business from scratch, work on the basis that you're probably not going to earn any money in the first 6 months, or at least you're probably not going to earn any money from your business in the first 6 months, unless you come up with something really unique or you're really, really good at doing what you do. So you need to build a contingency in to cover your living costs for a 6-month period. So is that going to come from savings? Is that going to come from investment from somebody else or your partner or the half or whatever it might be? Or are you actually going to go and get another part-time job or do something else to bring money in? However demeaning it might be, at least it keeps you your head above board, as it were, above water. There's a good friend of mine in the coaching world. The phrase he uses is that you always need to be able to fill the fridge and sleep at night. That's always useful when you start when you're in a small business, because as I say, if you can put food and drink in the fridge and sleep at night, then that makes you far better in the business world. But think about how you can put money. When I first started, I did some work which just paid a very minimal. I just hated it, but I think it paid something like just above minimum wage. But I brought enough money in to keep me going through the month till my business started to pick up, and then I stopped doing it because I thought I can't afford to do this anymore because the business is working. But have a think about, and I guess if you're starting out, you should have thought about this anyway. I'm sure you have, but if you haven't, have a think about how am I going to survive for the first few months in business until my business really starts to take off. This is really, really important, and this is when I get on my soapbox sometimes, because as a business coach and as a mentor, it frustrates me sometimes that people don't have all the relevant skills, or don't sometimes understand all of the relevant skills that they need to be in business. Yes, you are going to be good, I am sure, at doing what you do that hopefully people will pay you for. But think about all the other skills that you need. You may be good at doing what you do. You might be, butcher, baker, candlestick maker, whatever it may be. But what about things like sales and marketing and finance and admin and time management and all those sort of things? Some of those things we'll talk about a bit later. The analogy I often use, it's a bit like pillars holding a building up. If you've got 6 pillars holding a building up, one's called sales, one's called marketing, one's called admin, one's called time management, and one's called actually physical work to get paid for. And you look after 5 of those columns, but you ignore the 6th one, and that crumbles, the building will still come tumbling down. So it's really, really important that you have all the relevant skills that you need to run a business. And so one of my challenges to you guys is to do a skills audit. Sit down and be brutally honest with yourself. How much do you know about sales? How much do you know about marketing? How much do you know about managing your time and all that sort of stuff? And then effectively, you've got 3 choices. The first one hopefully isn't a choice, because the first one is you can just choose to do nothing. But that's not really an option, is it? The second choice is that you can pay somebody to do some of those things for you. And again, that's a good way of doing it because you're pulling in somebody's relevant skills who knows all about this stuff. But of course, that comes at a cost and an investment. The third thing is, which most people do when they're first starting out, because money, let's be honest, is a challenge. The next thing they can do is to go and learn it themselves. And there's lots of materials out there. There are lots of stuff on YouTube. You can get CDs, you can get books, and all sorts of stuff where you can learn to do this stuff. And again, you have to think about it. And we're coming on shortly on the next slide to talk about time. It's about how you can best use your time. Are you best spending hours and hours and hours learning how to do something you don't really enjoy doing and don't want to do? Or actually, is it better just to pay somebody for a few hours, a couple of hours a week to do it for you? And again, that's a choice that you have to have. But certainly the first thing you need to do is to appreciate that these are the skills that you need to run a business. It's not just doing the business is not going to come. Trust me, the business is not going to come flying over the wall and land in your lap. We're sort of halfway through. Is there any particular questions at the moment, Lillian, have come up? Sort of just to anything so far?
No, Ian, I haven't had any questions in the Q&A yet, but I'm sure they'll come
Okay.
later on. I have had some nice messages in the chat box, people just sharing where they're at in their journey. So we've had someone who's kind of in the process of getting their business up and running, a couple of people who are kind of working part-time and trading part-time, and then a couple of people who have been in business for a couple of years now, but still kind of in startup stages. So a real nice mix, I think, in the audience of where everybody's at.
Cool. Okay, Kevin. As I say, please ask questions as we go through. I'm conscious this is supposed to last an hour. The way I'm going at the moment, it'll all be over in half an hour. But hey ho, we're all busy people. So, and as the next slide is time management, that's not really a problem. So I think this is really, really important. I'm just going to labour this point again. Make sure that you do that skills audit and be brutally honest with yourself, and just be honest and just say, what skills do I need? What am I good at? What am I not good at? And am I gonna go and learn it myself and do it myself? Or am I going to get somebody else to do it? And I know, as I say, I said right at the start, I know it's a challenge when you first start out, when it's about money is a problem. But one of the questions when I do work with people around time management is this the best use of your time right now? I know when I first started going out and I went to networking events, I'd come back with 15 business cards from people I'd spoken to, and I had a database, and I literally, used to sit down and 2-finger type all the details into the database, their name, the business name, all the details that you get on a business card. And it used to take me absolutely ages. And then I found somebody very close to where I live that would do it for just over minimum wage. So I could give them to all, and what would take me a whole morning to do, probably they were doing in an hour. And it used to cost me, I think at the time, about £8.50. And I think to myself, you know what? The money I charge per hour for my time, it's not worth me doing it myself anymore. So again, have those thoughts, because sometimes actually help you can get is not maybe as expensive as you think it possibly could be. Time. Ooh. I touched on it. I mentioned the thing about the pillars, the analogy I use on pillars. The same thing applies to time. You have to allocate the relevant amount of time to each of those skills. So first of all, you need those skills, and then secondly, you need to allocate time to them. So when I work with people, again, on a one-to-one basis, we talk about things called the default diary and the to-do and priorities list. And the default diary is making sure that you allocate in your diary every week time to do all those relevant tasks. You have to make sales calls. You have to make marketing calls. Don't mix the two up, because your brain works in different ways. I don't know if you understand left brain, right brain, but certainly don't mix sales and marketing calls up, because your brain works in different ways. So you need to allocate time for sales and marketing. You obviously need to allocate time to do the work that you're actually paid to do. You need to allocate time to get your invoices out, because that's what brings the money in. Don't just leave necessarily till the end of the month. The quicker you get the invoices out, the quicker you get paid. You need to allocate time to check your emails and your LinkedIn and all that sort of stuff that you might well do. or your Facebook or Instagram, whichever you're chosen, and we'll come on to marketing again shortly. You need to allocate time in your week to do all those things. Here's a big tip. Switch off the thing in the bottom right-hand corner that pings every time an email comes in, because it keeps interrupting them. The way our brain works, we keep wanting, oh, I'll just go and stop. I'll stop what I'm doing now. I'll go and check with that. Or I'll stop what I'm doing now. I'll go and deal with that. That's not a good use of your time. Just check your emails a couple of times a day. And that way, then you can concentrate on the tasks and the things that you've got in hand that are really, really important. And again, when I do some time management training and time mastery training with people, we cover that in a lot more detail. So as it says there, allocate time in the week to do all of those tasks that we talked about. Because again, it's a bit like those pillars again. If you allocate time to the certain things, but you don't allocate time to the one of them, that pillar will crumble, and again, your business will come tumbling down. So again, it's really, really important to allocate the relevant time. Another, I've sort of touched on this early on, but this is sort of when I got another one when I get on my soapbox again. It's really, really important that you continually assign time and money to develop yourself. It will be the best investment you ever make. I touched on about doing a skills audit early on. I am constantly learning. I am still learning to this day, and I've been around in business in different shapes and forms for more years than I care to remember. I think I was mid-20s, so 40, nearly 40 years ago when I first went into the commercial world of business. And, you know, in those days, no internet, no videos as such, no, in fact, no videos full stop. But I read loads of books. I read about the IBM story. I read a book by a brilliant book called In Search of Excellence, and these were Bibles for me, if you like, about to learn how to develop myself and particularly how to sell more effectively. And I'm still investing to this day. I'm still watching DVDs. I am still listening to Audible in the car when I'm on journeys. I'm currently listening, to give an example, I am currently listening to a book called Never Split the Difference. And it's about negotiating skills. Now, I've been negotiating. I learned how to negotiate part of sales process 30 odd years ago. And I have been training people in negotiating skills for many, many years as part of the sales training that I do. And I had this book about 3 years ago. And I just couldn't believe some of the stuff. I thought I knew about negotiating until I read this book. And now I just have it on my phone, it's on Audible, and when I'm on a journey, I listen to it. And it was written by a guy called Chris Voss, who was the head negotiator or the lead negotiator for the FBI in America. So if any American citizen was ever taken hostage anywhere in the world, they sent for him. That's high stakes negotiating, when you are negotiating for somebody's life. And some of the techniques that he uses, I think, are absolutely brilliant. So I think the point I'm making here is never stop learning. Just always constantly find ways and find time to improve your knowledge and your own self-development. As I said earlier on, it will be the best investment you ever make. And hopefully this is the start of it. Right, okay, so I've left this sort of last couple till most important, what I consider the most important ones till last. Here's a question for you. Let's get a bit of audience. Let's get a bit of audience participation at this stage. What is marketing? Is this where the chat box is supposed to light up, Lillian? Hope so.
I was going to say, I'm just giving people a chance to type.
Well, if somebody wants to open their mic up and have an open mic, I'm happy with that as well. If they prefer to do that.
I'm not sure the webinar is set up, so we can, unfortunately. Okay. So I think we're gonna just yep. I can see some things coming through in the chat box already. So Ashley Wilson said advertisement. Yassine said promoting your product to the correct audience. Kate has said selling yourself and your business.
Cool. All right and all wrong. Mark, and the reason I do that, and I have a bit of a laugh, and particularly when we're doing it, everybody's in a room. If I ask 30 people in a room what the definition of market is, they bet your bottom dollar I get 30 different answers. And people often get sales and marketing mixed up. So here's my definition of marketing for what it's worth. Marketing is anything and everything that you do that gets to a one-to-one conversation. Anything and everything you do that gets to the one-to-one conversation. At the point you get to the one-to-one conversation, your marketing is finished and you're now into business development and sales. So marketing, and again, this is just an introduction to start. It's a startup introduction, and I do a whole workshop on marketing alone. But marketing is going to be things like this: networking events, websites, email blasts, going to live networking, speaking events, loads and loads, anything like that. LinkedIn, Instagram, social media, anything like that is actually your marketing. It's about keeping a name in the frame. It's about getting to one-to-one conversations. So your marketing should be totally focused on how can I get this person, or how can I get more people or more potential clients to one-to-one conversations? Because unless you're in the business of selling something online, a product online, or something where they can go onto your website and pay money and download it, virtually all business is done by speaking to each other. So therefore, your focus on marketing needs to be, how can I invest my money and my time in getting more and more one-to-ones with the right people? And I do a lot of work with people on LinkedIn, for example. So if you're in the business-to-business environment, I think LinkedIn is a really good way to go. As I say, I do a 3-hour workshop on LinkedIn, but we haven't got 3 hours. But again, if you're in the business-to-business environment, go check it out. If you're on LinkedIn, go find me on LinkedIn. And I'm the man with all the stars. I'm the Ian Preston with all the stars. Send me a connection request. And there's loads of great stuff on my LinkedIn profile. But all I ask you to do is whenever you connect with somebody on LinkedIn, don't just click the connect button. Send a personal message. Hi, Ian. Thanks very much for your presentation. I thought it was absolutely crap, but I'd still like to join up with on LinkedIn anyway, or something like that. Always personalize a message. A, people are more likely to connect with you if you personalize a message. B, if you don't speak to somebody for a couple of years and then suddenly you touch base with them, you can always look back to that first message and it will tell you where you first touched base on LinkedIn, or where you first heard about each other. So go check with people on LinkedIn. So 90% of marketing doesn't work. The art is knowing the 10% that works for you, and what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for somebody else. So for those of you right at the start of your journey, have a look and list down all those sorts of different avenues of marketing, which ones you're doing, how much time you're spending on them, how much money you're spending on them, and then record how much business you're getting from them. You know, how many people do you speak to? How many quotes are you doing, and where are orders coming from? So you can look back at the end of the quarter or the end of the year, and you've got a record of which of your marketing's working and which isn't. And if somebody contacts you cold, out of the button, then one of the first things you need to say to somebody is, thank you very much for getting in touch. Just before we carry on, do you mind if I ask how you found out about me? Because again, it's a good way again of understanding which part of your marketing works. Because the art is knowing what works for you. You need to understand where your prospects hang out. So I mentioned LinkedIn early on. So if your clients are predominantly business to consumer, housewives, house husbands, that sort of thing, then LinkedIn probably isn't the best platform for you. But certainly if you're in a business to business environment, then LinkedIn has a lot going for it. And people say to me, I can't afford to invest in LinkedIn because I need to get my website done. And I have no problem with people saying they need to get the website done because it's a great shop window again. But just be aware that one of the challenges with websites is that people need to find your website, firstly, as opposed to the myriad of your competitors who are doing similar things. And then having found your website, they need physically to do something. They probably need to click a button to say, or fill a form in, or get your phone number, or send you an email, etc., etc. Whereas the great thing about LinkedIn is if you know what you're doing, you can physically go and contact people. So if, for example, you want to deal with, I don't know, marketing directors or engineering directors in the greater Birmingham area, you can use LinkedIn to find every marketing director and every engineering director in the Birmingham area and send them a personalized connection message. And then it just becomes a numbers game. If you send, and again, when I work with people on a one-to-one basis, if I send out, well, if you send out 50 connection requests a week, which when I work with people, I give them a semi-automated tool to do that, which means I don't need to spend any more than about 5 or 10 minutes on LinkedIn. Let's say you send 50 a week and only half of those people connect, that's 25, and only half of those people respond to your follow-up message, that's 12, and only half of those people say, yes, Billy, Sarah, Randy, whatever your mate name is, yes, I'd love to have a one-to-one conversation with you, then that's 6. Now you've got 6 one-to-one conversations next week that you didn't have this week, and the week after, and the week after, and the week after that. And then again, if you can't turn 6 one-to-one calls into at least 1 or 2 orders, then we definitely need to have a conversation about sales skills, which we're coming on to very soon. So there's a lot about marketing, which obviously you appreciate we can't go into, I haven't got time to do now, but just be aware that that's when you first start, it's a really, really important part. And also understand what your clients' hot buttons are, so you can refer to it in marketing. And when I say hot buttons, for those people who don't necessarily understand what I mean by hot buttons, I'm talking here about, you might have heard the phrase wants and needs. And some people say, years and years ago, I can remember sitting in training courses where you had an hour discussion about the difference between a want and a need. You know, I want a Rolls Royce, but I need a car. Forget about it. Doesn't matter. Wants and needs are totally irrelevant now. Think about your clients' hot buttons. What turns them on? What button can you press that will make them take action? What challenges have they got that you can take away? Can you make them more money? Can you save them money? Can you save them time? All that sort of stuff. Those are the things that you need to think about, because the biggest mistake that people make in marketing is they tell people what they do. Nobody gives 2 hoots what you and I do. They care passionately how we can help them. If you go, even when you connect with me on LinkedIn, you will see, and in fact, towards the end of this, I know I can't, but yeah, just find me on LinkedIn, Ian Preston. You will see the opening line of my LinkedIn profile actually says helping businesses generate more hot leads and sales. Then he goes on to talk about me being a business coach and all the other stuff that I do. So have a think about what is it that you do, what is it the benefit that you bring, and all your marketing stuff, whether it's on banners, on business cards, on your LinkedIn profile, on your website, needs to be around telling people and reminding people the benefits you bring. When you go to networking events and they go around the room and you've got your 1 minute or your 30-second elevator pitch, and say, tell us, Ian, tell us what you do. No, don't tell them what you do. Don't tell people what you do. Tell them how you can help them. And again, this is, as I say, I'm doing this in a few minutes here. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot of psychology involved actually in marketing as well. And I've studied sales and marketing psychology. So there's a lot of bit about how the brain works and certain things you can say that trigger people into taking action. And that's what it's all about. So just have a think about the marketing that you do. As I say, it's a subject in itself, but it's focused on getting people to have a one-to-one conversation. It's not about selling. Selling happens when you've done the marketing and you get to that one-to-one conversation. Remember, 90% of it doesn't work. So start recording where you get your business from, so you know what's working and what's better to invest more time in and money in if you need be. And remember, finally, on marketing is nobody is ever going to buy from you and I when we want them to. I hate to say that, and if that's what you thought, I'm really sorry to put a pinprick in our balloon or your balloon, but nobody's going to buy from you and I when we want them to. They will buy when they are ready to buy. The art is keeping our name in the frame so they think of us first, and that's what your marketing is about, really. Whether you're putting stuff out regularly on social media, on LinkedIn, going to networking events, sending monthly newsletters, going to events and speaking to events, whatever it might be, the art is keeping our name in the frame so that people think about us when they are ready to buy. And finally, it's not actually finally, but it seems like it's finally because it's 10 top tips. Well, I've got a little surprise. You have to be able to sell. It is undoubtedly the most important skill that you will need, bar none. That's not to say that all the other ones that we've spoken about aren't important, because they are, else otherwise I wouldn't have put them in this presentation. But business will not come flying over the wall and land in your lap. No orders means no money. Do you know what to say when? And well, yeah, no orders means no money. Let's just expand on that. And it's money that makes the world go round. It's money that puts your car on the drive, pays for the holidays, or on a more basic level, puts food in the fridge and puts clothes and shoes on your kids' feet and on the back. Without money, you are going to struggle. So you need to be able to sell. It won't come flying over the wall on your lap. Do you know what to say when somebody says no? Do you know how to prevent a no in the first place? You'll be amazed how many people I come across in sales who will say, they've worked hard, they've found their prospects, they've done all the marketing, they've gone the network, and they found potential people to talk. They're doing one-to-one conversations. They go to the site, they pull a proposal together, and then their customer says no, and they say, "All right, thanks very much." Surely it's worth a little bit more effort than that, having gone through all that. So you need to know what the skills are. So firstly, either try and avoid a no in the first place, or if one of your potential prospects says no, then what to say. What would you say if somebody says it's too expensive? And the answer, trust me, is never, or should never ever be, I'll do it cheaper, because that's just a race to the bottom. Yes, when you first start out, you won't charge as much as you do. I charge a lot more now than I ever did when I first started out. In fact, when I first started out, I did some business for free. Why do you think I might? Here's a question for you, a bit more audience participation. Why do you think I might have done business for free when I first started out, having said that you need to be able to sell and you need to earn money?
It's very quiet in the chat.
I was going to say, I was just having a look at that. It's all gone very quiet, didn't it? Case studies and testimonials, yes, absolutely, yes. To get case studies you can use for future business, for future links and business payment related, that, yes. When I started out in business, because I'd been in the corporate, when I started out in business, I'd never heard of networking. Somebody said you need to go networking. Bear in mind, I'd worked all my life in the corporate world in really big organizations that we had marketing departments and sales departments and all that sort of stuff. And I had to just sell, and I had to work with people and run teams to sell. Somebody said, you need to go networking. And I said, what's networking? And then suddenly I go to this networking event, and it was like this underground world, that I didn't even know existed. It was like, wow, and I think, to be fair, when I first started 7 or 8 years ago, networking, business networking, relatively new anyway. But I went to several networking events, and you always meet Mr. Networker or Mrs. Networker who knows all the networking events that are going, and they introduce you before you know where you are. You're going networking 5 days a week, morning, noon, and night. But why not? If you've got nothing else to do, you may as well. And some of you people there in the chat box now have hit the nail right on the head, in so much as that I hadn't got any business coming in, but I hadn't got a reputation either. Nobody knew what I did, how good I was at doing it. And so I just said, yeah, okay. I did a little bit of business for free, but generally speaking, I kept my charges relatively low. Sometimes I just did it for expenses. But again, I didn't do it straight away because I was saying, people say it's too expensive. Well, if I did it for free, would you have it? Yes, of course I would. Okay, so how about I do it for free? I'll give an hour's free of my time, as long as you'll do 2 things for me. Will you introduce me to a couple? If you like what we do, will you introduce me to at least 2 of your friends or business associates that you know? And secondly, will you give me a recommendation? And that seems fair enough. And that way, then you get introduced to new people, and also you get recommendations. Now, some of those recommendations were done in different places. Some of them are on LinkedIn. I'm pleased to say now that I think I've got something like about 170, 180 recommendations on LinkedIn. That's not just for doing business. Trust me, that's not doing just business for free now. But I am very, very fortunate that people are very kind to give me recommendations on LinkedIn. If you're going to start using LinkedIn, you need to ask for recommendations. Probably you need to do business first. But they're worth the weight in gold, aren't they? It's amazing. Again, when I'm running workshops, and I'll say to people, put your hand up if you think personal recommendations are the most powerful form of marketing that you can possibly have. And nearly everybody in the room sticks a hand up. And then I'll say, keep your hands up if you have an active and ongoing strategy to consistently ask for recommendations. And it's amazing, nearly everybody's hands come down. Funny that. So yes, if you get the opportunity to do something or to grab some business, either always ask for money, obviously, but if ask somebody, if I did it for free, would you do it? Or if I did it for half that price, would you say yes? Because now we're going to negotiating skills again, which again, we haven't got time to cover, but maybe we'll run a session on sales skills at some stage, or maybe, I don't know, Lillian's already got that organised. Anyway, but just get the opportunity to do business, but don't just do it for free totally. Just say, will you give me a recommendation, and will you introduce me to at least 2 people that might benefit from doing what I'm doing? And that's how you gradually build your business up. And that's what I would say, to do it for free. There are so many more elements to selling, again, that we're not going to have time to run through now. Again, I've run for Birmingham Chamber for several years. I've run 3-hour sales workshops. In fact, funnily enough, I've just been doing, before Christmas, I've been doing some training with the sales team for the Birmingham Chamber. So hopefully they like what they're doing. That's why they pay me to do it, which is why I'm able to give up some time for free to do things like this, which I really, really enjoy. But you need to be able to sell. I think, getting back to the key point here, you really need to be able to sell. It's the most important skill you have. It'll bring the money in. The quicker that you can learn to sell, and the better that you can sell at. And when you learn all the techniques, I just do it without thinking about it now. People say to me, who've been out with me, when they've been out with me, they say, "What made you say that?" And I have to stop and think, because I've been doing it for so long. Again, I don't know if you've heard the phrase about conscious incompetence and unconscious competence and all that sort of stuff. Again, go check it out. When it comes to sales skills, from my perspective, it's what's classed as unconscious competence. And so much as I've been doing it for so long, I just do it without thinking, and I have to stop and explain to some people sometimes why I'm doing it and why it works, and how it works, and the psychology behind it. The important thing for you guys is you need to learn how to sell, because the better you can sell, the more money that you'll bring in quicker. And here's the key then. Now, the more money you bring in quicker, the more money you can then invest in other people to do your marketing for you, or take care of your finances and do all the little trivial things and the non-core activity you don't enjoy doing, which gives you more time to do the important stuff that earns you money, which means you can earn even more money, even more quicker, and then start putting your prices up, etc., etc., etc. And that's why it's really, really important to learn how to sell. But I've got my soapbox now, because I could talk about selling all day. And if you remember, I said I would give you 10 top tips, and here's the 11th one. Always over-deliver and weigh your target market. In other words, it's far better to under-promise and over-deliver than the other way around. If you can't do something, or you can't meet a deadline, tell people you can't do it. Tell people would much rather be honest. People would much rather you be honest, and they're more likely to come back to you, even if they can't help them right there and then. I did it in the business world when I was salaried. And I said to people at times, you know what, I don't think this is the right thing for you right now. And I walked away from business, or I took my company away from business. But generally speaking, those people came back and they said, Ian, we really, really appreciated you being honest with us. You were absolutely right, but we think now is the right time. Can we do stuff? And believe it or not, I've done that with since I've been working for myself. And that's an even tougher call then, when you're trying to grow your business, and the only way you get earnings is what you get when you sell stuff, and you walk away from business. You have to think, was that the right thing to do? But ethically, I think it wasn't several occasions. And again, I've had people come back to me and said, Ian, appreciate you doing that. You were absolutely right. It wasn't, but now can we have a chat? And I picked up business subsequently. One of the phrases I talk about people when we're doing sales skills training is I say, be a consultant first. And that's, again, a word of advice I'd give to people. So hence the 11 items, not 10. Always over-deliver and weigh your target market. Finally, before we go into the Q&A, I'd just be interested so far, and if you, I'll say open up the mic. If you can't open your mic, just drop it in the chat box. But before we go into the Q&A, I'd be really, really interested to know what your biggest takeaway has been, because I'm sure you'll appreciate, each one of those tips, each one of those slides could have been the subject of a presentation in itself. So I've sort of tried to whiz through it, but I'd be really interested, before we just go to the Q&A, what your biggest takeaway has been today. And that leads me on to, I've got one more slide after this, but that leads me on to the sort of questions. But, so I'm going to hand it back to Lillian at this stage.
Lovely. Thank you, Ian, for that excellent presentation. Really, really insightful. I'm just going to see if anyone puts anything in the chat in terms of The
In answer to Kate's
takeaway.
question, I still do stuff for free. I'm doing this for free. But I do. I still do, and I also do some mentoring for some of the universities in Birmingham and other places. And why? Because it leads to other things. One of the universities I've been asked to do some guest lecturing. The answer to the simple answer to the question about right at the start was, for as long as it took me to get my business up off the ground and get it going and people pay me on a regular basis. And then it just becomes a case of there has to be a really good reason why I do stuff for free. Now I'm in the sort of giving back stage, which is nice. If you want to understand where people are in a pyramid, go look up something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Right at the start, it's all about I need to eat and I need to keep myself warm and I need to clothe myself. And then the further up the pyramid, you get to the stage where it's nice sometimes just to give stuff back. But right at the start, just have a good reason if you're doing stuff for free. But don't do it for too long, because then you're into charging, and then you start charging even more. I'll shut up for a bit now, Lillian. You be question master.
That's all right. That's all right. There's a couple more questions. One came in through the chat, Ian, which I'll do first before I forget. It was, you talked about the professional development and the books that you're reading, and someone said, oh, I can use my driving time to do some listening to audio books. Have you got any that you would particularly recommend? And I thought there might be a few. If people are first kind of getting into that.
I wouldn't necessarily start with the greatest respect, I wouldn't necessarily start with Never Split the Difference. It's a really in-depth, it's a really good book, don't get me wrong, or a listen, but it's quite, it's more quite advanced. There are some more basic stuff around you to learn. One of the good ones I would recommend is, I've got it here. It is, well, she was here. I don't know, some of you might have come across this one. Oh, you can't see it, it's blurred. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, written by a guy called Steve Covey. I would never have read the book. And the book is like a tome. It literally is a tome. But I had it about 3-4 years ago. At the time, I was doing a lot of work with Chester University, and I live southwest Birmingham. So I was having a couple of hours drive virtually every other week, or at least once a month, up to Chester and back. And I used to get myself organised, get going, make a few phone calls. And then, strange enough, it came in a CD set. And strange enough, there are 7 CDs, since it's called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There's 7 CDs in there, about an hour each. And they talk about different aspects of business. And the last one is, and I didn't do it as a tip because I only got so much time, but the last one is called Sharpen the Saw, and it's all about looking after yourself. So I'd certainly recommend that one, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But again, there are lots of podcasts around that you can listen to. And another way that I found that I really enjoy learning of late is not just reading business books for business sake, but I've got Alex Ferguson's book called Leading, not his autobiography. He talks about leading, which is about business skills. I've got David Coulthard's book called The Winning Formula. So again, David Coulthard, obviously a successful racing driver, but he's also built up a very successful business. And again, it's a good read around business techniques. Giuliani's book, Rudy Giuliani, he's lost a bit of credibility because he got associated with Trump in a few different ways a year or so ago. But he was the mayor of New York when 9/11 happened. And this is more about leadership as opposed, that's why the book's called Leadership, as opposed to growing a business. But it's really an interesting read. So I think the point I'm trying to make here is my reading now tends to be around, in the main, around reading those sort of books for people I respect who have built businesses up, but have got a good story to tell, and they tell it in a really good way. One of the last really technical books I read was a guy called Steve Peters, called The Chimp Paradox. Steve Peters was he's effectively a sports psychologist, for want of a better phrase. He worked with the British cycling team for many years. And in fact, a lot of the big gold medal people in the British cycling, Chris Hoy, Pendleton, Vicky Pendleton, all those sort of people, put down and always said they would not have had anything like the success they would have had without Steve Peters. Now, that's about how the brain works. That's why it's called the Chimp Paradox. So if you want to understand how the brain works and what stops you from doing things and why you do things in a certain way, then go and read the chimp paradox. Trust me, it is not a page turner that you will turn over and over again. It's not like a novel where I've got to see what happens next. I tried to read it like that for about 2 chapters, and in the end, I read one on holiday once, and I realised that actually I needed to read it just a chapter at a time. So I read a chapter, absorbed it, and then moved on to the next chapter. So again, those are the sort of books that I've got. But as I say, everybody to their own.
Lovely, thanks, Ian. I think that's some really useful insights. I also read the chimp paradox, and I agree. I think it's a difficult read, or not that much of a page turner, but I still think about the chimp a lot when I'm working, so it is really, really useful. Thank you. A couple more questions have come in from Kate Tate. When you start, I found you don't always know what you don't know until you try to do it. So how do you know what skills are the best to have, and how do you prioritize which are important?
It's a great question. I go back to some of the points I made early on. You need clients first and foremost. You need clients, so you need to be able to sell. You need to be able to market. You need to know. You need to go and find people and find out where your clients hang out. And as you get into business more, you will come across. I love it. This is probably not the answer you were looking for. But the more successful you get, and as you grow your business, you will come across more and more things you actually don't do, or don't know, or don't do as well as you should do. So that's how you learn. I say, I need to learn how to do that, or I need to find out how to do that, or I need to pay somebody to do that. And there's lots. I mean, YouTube. There's loads of stuff you can learn to do on YouTube. From little things to big things. It's just a case of keep on doing what you think is the right thing to do, or people are advising you to do and do. But certainly you need to put sales and marketing at the top of that list, because that's where the orders come from, and that's where the money comes from.
Lovely. Thank you, Ian. One from Ashley. When would it make sense to offload sales and marketing to someone else? I'm a designer, so ideally I'd like to avoid any of the admin and focus on my creative work, but I struggle to justify the expense. Yeah.
The answer is, the simple answer is, again, and not one you probably want to hear, is when you can afford to do it. I wonder how many people, when they set their business out and do a business plan and say, I'm going to invest this amount of money, do I need an office? In your particular case, what you were saying about a designer, you've probably got an Apple Mac, and you need this and you need that and you need all the other software. Fine, okay, that's cool. And therefore you need to bring so much money in. But how many of you actually allocate time for self-development? How many actually allocate money for self-development? Because the quicker you can do something, the quicker you can learn to do something, the quicker it'll happen. Here's another little tip, sort of along the way, is templates. Templates can be so useful. If you have to do something or write an email to somebody in a particular way, or put a proposal together, let's say you put that 7 or 8 10-page proposal together, the first you think yourself, I haven't got time to do it. But actually, once you've done it once, next time somebody asks for a proposal, 9/10 of it is already written. And all you've got to probably do is top and tail it and change the first couple of paragraphs and the last couple of paragraphs and maybe the price and what you're going to deliver. But apart from that, all the great stuff about what you do and why you do it and the background and your competence and all that sort of stuff is already written. And it's the same, when I do proposals, on emails and quotations on emails, I've got them pre-written. It's the same when I work with people on LinkedIn. I give them what's called a package of what I call magic messages. It looks a nice message. If somebody's looked at my profile, they will get a message that says, hello there, thank you very much for checking out my profile. Just wonder what interested you and how I might be able to help. Best regards, Ian. Understand, coaching people to be more effective. And when you get that, oh, that's nice. Yeah, I'll go back, I'll accept that. But actually, if it's pre-written, all I do is copy and paste it, type the name in, job done. So again, invest your time first time round in getting things right and doing templates, because although it takes a bit of time to start with, it will save you so much time in the long run. When I do my time management and time mastery course, I talk to you about what I call kicking the heads off daisies. If you've got daisies in the lawn and you walk down the lawn, it's very easy to kick the heads off and it looks fine again. The next time you walk down the lawn, the daisies have reappeared. Actually, if you took time to go to the shed, got on your hands and knees and dug it out, you don't have to do it one. It takes a bit longer the first time, but they won't come up again. Exactly the same with your business.
Lovely. Thanks, Ian. I think that's a really, really good answer, really, really useful. I agree on templates. I think I saw a couple of people who run their business through a franchise. If you're lucky, you'll have had some templates through them. but it is really helpful to just take a bit of time to set those up. Mel has got a question, which I think might be a whole session on its own, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Can you share specific sales techniques?
Yeah, I saw that one. It is a session on itself. It's a 3-hour workshop that I sometimes do for the chamber. The answer is yes, but we haven't got time, unfortunately. It is about, there are different. What I would say to you is, here's a little hint. A lot of people say to me around selling, they say, if only I could handle objections better, I would sell more. And objection handling is a really, really important part of selling. You know, when somebody said it's too expensive, you need to know what to say, and that sort of stuff. But trust me, when I work with people on a either 3-hour workshop or it's a one-to-one coaching, I take people through a 7-stage process of sales, which, if you follow the process, makes it far more likely that you will get a yes at the end than you'll get a no. And in my experience, objection handling, yes, is important, but far more sales are lost earlier in the process. And effectively, they are floundering around with objection handling, trying to get it back. If you get the earlier process right, like asking the right questions, you know, too many people don't find out. They go into a place, the bloke says, "Can you do this?" "Yes, I can." And off they go again and put a price in. Or "Can you design this?" "Yes, I can." "Fine, okay." But what about asking the questions? Why do they want it? What do they want it to look like? Why are they coming to me? What problems have I had in the past? What effect is it having if they don't do it? And all that sort of stuff. So again, I've sort of skirted around the answer, but hopefully I've given you some sensible stuff. There is a whole process you need to go through, and if you get the process right, you are far more likely to get a yes at the end than a no.
Great, thank you, Ian. I hope that was helpful. I would suggest anyone who wants to learn more about the process, connect with Ian on LinkedIn. I'm sure we can get him his contact details shared as well, to look at that 3-hour session with him. I think that was all the questions we had in the Q&A. Obviously, if anyone has any more burning questions, we have got a little bit of time left, so do please put them in the chat or the Q&A. If you want to ask anything else. Ian, did you have a last final slide you wanted to wrap up with?
Well, I've got a thank you slide at the end, which is, I always put up, say thank you, you're awesome. But this is a slide I want you to sort of leave in people's mind. The distance between dreams and reality is called action. You will have dreams, you will have great dreams. It will be a challenge growing your business and starting and getting it moving. It will. I asked you early on a question around what's your biggest takeaway. I challenge you to write some things down and just say, what am I going to do next? What is the one biggest thing or two biggest things I've taken from that I realize now that I must go and do, and go do them. Don't just think about doing them, because that, as it says there, the distance between dreams and reality is called action. Go do them.
Fabulous.
Cool.
Thanks, Ian. Thank you so much for that. I haven't seen any more questions come up, so thank you very much to Ian for that session. I think that was incredibly useful. Like Ian said, I hope people will use the kind of 15 minutes that we had left to write down some actions from this session. Thank you all guys for attending. I hope this was an enjoyable and useful business surgery. As mentioned, we've got 5 more coming up where we'll delve into more of these topics in a bit more detail. If you want to speak to Ian about any more training, please do connect with him on LinkedIn or drop him an email. And also a reminder that our next session for startups is on the 15th of February, which is a networking session. So I know you might have seen some names come by today. Obviously, it'd be great to get you all together in a room and get you chatting about this session and just about your businesses. So hopefully you'll all be able to join us on the 15th of February. So yeah.
If I may, I'm just going to drop in the box my LinkedIn profile.
Yes, please do. That's great.
And bear in mind, I will only connect with anybody that personalises the message, that says, I heard you speak on the chamber. If you don't personalise the message, I won't accept it. So there's a big hint. But there's my LinkedIn details to connect with anyway.
Fabulous. Thank you, Ian, and thank you everybody for attending. Have a great rest of the day and a lovely weekend.